Hi everyone, and welcome to our very first lecture video in this course on business ethics. My name is Leah, you can call me Leah, and I am going to be your instructor in this class. All right, so in this lecture video, we are going to cover some of the basic information regarding the course. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the general subject matter, what we're going to be talking about, thinking about in the class. I am going to give you a very brief sort of overview of the kind of work you're going to be doing in the class. I'm going to talk a little bit about the course format, and then I'm going to spell out the details of all of those things in a overview of the syllabus. All right. The general subject matter of the course. So this class is going to be all about examining reasons why we, or a business, or an entity, a corporation, has certain obligations or doesn't have certain obligations. And one of the ways that we're going to get at those questions is looking at a lot of conflicting sort of intuitions maybe, or arguments regarding, certain obligations, say, that a employer has to its employees. Thinking about, the flip side of that argument, maybe people who argue that no, that employer doesn't have that set of obligations to those employees. We're going to be thinking about obligations that businesses and corporations have to shareholders, so the people who invest in those companies. And we're also going to be thinking about more broadly on the whole, whether or not businesses and corporations have certain obligations or don't have certain obligations to society more broadly. Now, when it comes to the kind of work we're going to be doing in this class, a lot of it is going to be exactly what you're doing right now, watching a lecture video. There's going to be some readings. I've tried to keep it as brief. I know that those readings can get kind of tedious and a little boring. There's going to be some videos, a couple of podcasts, and then in addition to that, so like the assigned required materials, in addition to that, the work that you're going to be doing, producing yourself, is going to come in the form of largely short answer questions. And then once a week, there's going to be a handful of a little bit longer answer questions. And beyond that, engaging with one another about some of those conflicts that I was mentioning a second ago, in a discussion board. So examining some conflicts or some debated issues within this broad field of business ethics, and talking through that with one another, thinking about and also thinking a lot about the other side of the argument. One thing that I'm going to mention right off the bat now, and I'm going to say this again in the syllabus overview, is because we are very crunched for time, what I was mentioning before about doing readings, watching lecture videos, things like this, I have designed this course specifically so the written work that you do, so a lot of those short answer questions on worksheets, longer answer questions, even some of the discussion board questions or conflicts that I mentioned a second ago, your initial answers to those things, you can do that work while watching the lecture videos, or while doing the readings, or listening to the podcast, things like that. In fact, a lot of the time, if you try to do the work while you're doing the written work while you're doing the readings or watching the lecture videos, you're going to find it's going to be a lot easier to get that stuff out. Okay. The course format. So I was just mentioning this a second ago. We are going to be crunched for time, right? This is effectively an accelerated course. We have 4 weeks to cram in an entire semester worth of material. The good news is this is an asynchronous course, so there's no scheduled time where we have to come and meet and talk, You don't have to sit down at any particular time and watch my lecture videos. However, you are going to need to complete assignments by the given due dates. So those worksheets with the short answer questions I was mentioning earlier, discussion board questions, and the handful of longer long answer questions that you'll be assigned in the class. All of those assignments do have deadlines. There's going to be multiple assignments due at least every week. And the most important thing you're going to want to be bearing in mind throughout all of this is managing your time. And I'll be getting into this a little bit more in the syllabus overview, but it's really crucial because this is a lot of work in a very short period of time, and there's regular assignments that are due, right? It's going to be really important that you are clear with yourself and schedule time multiple days a week to get the work done you need to do in this class. All right, so that takes us to the syllabus overview. All right, so the syllabus overview. In the top left corner here, you will find one of the most important pieces of information in this class. That is my email. If you need to request an extension for a due date, or you're having a family emergency, something's come up of that nature, of course, email me. If you have a question about the way an assignment is written, you don't see the link for something, you don't know where to submit a particular assignment, there's something about the due date that you find confusing, you're not able to open a video, something like this. If you are feeling that confusion or running into that technical difficulty, it is very likely that other people in the class are too. So go to the Q&A forum and first check to see if somebody else has already asked that question there. You can find the Q&A forum under course resources on the Blackboard main menu. So go there, go to the Q&A forum, see if somebody else has already asked that question. If they haven't, post your question there. You'll help out other people. Oftentimes I respond to questions posted in the Q&A forum before I respond to individual emails. That's just something that I check more regularly on Blackboard. Again, you can find that on the Blackboard main menu. On that note, just a quick note before I get into everything else, I will be posting a separate video that's going to give you just a really brief overview on where to find everything on Blackboard. I know all professors organize their course Blackboards differently. I think I am more different than most of them. Students have told me that they find the way I set things up to be a little bit more intuitive and helpful. I break things down by different module periods. So like the different sorts of, we're going to be covering about 5 different general themes in this class. And those 5 themes are broken into 5 separate module periods. And I have those module periods posted up on Blackboard and with their corresponding dates. So you can click on those module periods, whatever, time, like today, July 15th, you can click on module 1, which is just one day. And under that, you find all the assigned readings, all the assigned lecture videos, all the assignments, everything you need to do. So broken into those module periods. And again, I'm going to be posting just a really quick little video on where to click, how to find what you need to do on Blackboard. All right. So I talked quite a bit about the what we're going to be doing in the course, the format of it. Specifically, this is an asynchronous class. This is not only an asynchronous class. This is a very accelerated asynchronous class. So that means that although we don't have any scheduled meetup times, assignments will need to be submitted by. You're gonna have a bunch of little assignments in this class every week, and those assignments will need to be submitted by certain days, certain times. but you do not have to meet at a particular time. You can just get all that work done in your own time. And on that note, all of those assignments, all of those readings, all of those lecture videos, all of those things are up on Blackboard right now. So everything that you need to do in this class is up there. It's available. If you're welcome to get ahead. If you finish today, you have some more time, get working on module 2. Really just, making it work with your schedule. All right. So learning goals and objectives. I talked about this a little bit just a second ago, right? This class is going to be all about looking at reasons why we have perhaps certain obligations, or why perhaps we don't have certain obligations specifically within business context. So when we're doing that, we're analyzing reasons, we're looking at arguments. That is honing those critical reasoning skills. That's what constitutes that. And a lot of this is going to be making sure that you understand certain concepts. You really clearly understand what's happening, say in both sides of a debate. And then in cases where, you're asked to give your own opinion, coming up with your own good, persuasive, strong arguments for why you come down on, say, a certain side of a debate. So really, this class is about sharpening up your thinking skills, getting clear on why other people think what they think about obligations that we have within business context, and then thinking about developing your own strong, or getting practice developing your own strong arguments, really clarifying your reasons for why you think something is or isn't the case, why we have certain obligations or don't. All right. The assigned material in the class, i.e. like textbook and all the things like textbook-like, right? All that stuff is available on Blackboard. You do not need to buy a single thing for this class. Like I mentioned a second ago, this class is broken down, we're going to be kind of 5 separate themes in this class that are all broken down into 5 different module periods. And all of the assigned readings, podcasts, videos, things like that, can be found under the module period during which it is assigned. And again, if that feels confusing for you, you can just look at the video I posted, giving you a quick overview on where to find things on the Blackboard, because if you look at the Blackboard menu, that will make sense. For the most part, though, when it comes to the readings, we are going to be reading a lot from this book, Business Ethics by Byers and Stanbury. So all of that, and that is actually a free textbook. And the PDF for that textbook can be found under every module period during which readings from that textbook have been assigned. Okay. All right, so this is probably the part that most of you are curious about, like what work what's the written work you got to do for this class, right? So there's going to be there's 3 general kinds of written work that you're going to be doing for this class. We have worksheets, discussion board posts, and replies or objections. I refer to that as the discussion board assignments, and reading reflections. Okay. So I'm going to give you just a very brief overview of what these 3 general types are, or kinds are. For individual assignments, if you're like, how is this going to be graded? What are the standards here? You can find that information under assignment instructions and rubrics under the assignment instruction and rubrics tab on the Blackboard main menu. You can find that under the subheader course resources. When it comes to specific worksheets, say like the module 1 worksheet, which is due today, those can be those individual worksheets, individual questions, those are found under the module period during which they're assigned. So the module 1 worksheet, which is due today, and it is essentially a little quiz on the things I'm going to be talking about in this lecture video, that can be found under module 1, the date July 15th. On the Blackboard main menu. So quick note about that worksheet and all future worksheets. Something that I have done with these worksheets is for the sake of time for everyone, much of the time in my lecture videos, I will give almost direct answers to anywhere from half to 2/3 of the questions on these worksheets. So something that is a really good thing to do when you're watching these lecture videos is keep open and first pull up the module worksheet, or pull up the worksheet that corresponds. So for module 1, say you could pause this video, go pull up the module 1 worksheet, take a quick glance at the questions. There's never a lot of questions. And then as you're watching the video, when you hear me mention or touch on something that is relevant to one of those questions, right? Find it. And then you can pause the video once I answer the question, and you can type in the response. So the goal there is to get people to watch the lecture videos, because it really will save you quite a bit of time, right? Instead of trying to say maybe find the information elsewhere on the internet, or try to remember the video that you watched a few days ago, what was said in it, find the spot in the video, right? Just double dip, do it at the same time while you're, and the same goes for the readings as well. Keep the worksheet document open, as well as the reading reflection worksheet that oftentimes we'll cover assigned material. Keep that stuff open. Keep those questions in mind as you're doing the readings or watching the lecture videos and things like this, and answer those questions, type in real time while you're doing the other work. That way you can really double dip, get everything done, and get that information down when it's still fresh in your mind from watching the videos. So these worksheets, like I mentioned, the course is organized into 5 separate module periods, and there is a worksheet due at the end of each of those module periods, and those consist of short answer questions, oftentimes between 2 and 5 sentences, 2 to 5 sentence answer questions regarding different central concepts covered in that lecture video or in the reading, maybe asking to summarize a view on a particular thing, applying different ideas, but again, very short answer, 2 to 5 sentences. So actually, before I touch on discussion board, the DB8 assignment, reading reflections, or sometimes it'll be content covered in the lecture videos. These are reflections. These are longer format questions where you're going to be asked to reflect on certain concepts that are covered in the readings, or other assigned media, maybe a lecture video. Essentially, it's going to be longer than 5 sentences to fully answer those questions. So it's just spelling out your thinking a little bit more. There's a little bit more applying the ideas, a little bit more of pushing you to explain, what you think about certain concepts, certain positions, certain debates, things like this. All right. Discussion board assignments, or posts and replies. So every week, including this week, so for the next 4 weeks, you all are going to participate in an async discussion with your classmates about something that came up or something that is relevant to things that were discussed in lecture video, readings, podcasts, etc. And this is a sort of 2-part assignment. The first part is going to be responding to a question or prompt regarding something that was covered during that week, in the material that week. And there, oftentimes, you're going to be asked to maybe give like your view on a particular debate, something like this. And then the second part of this assignment is you're going to have to come up with an objection to someone else's post. Now, for those of you who are sitting there that are maybe a little conflict averse and don't really like the idea of having to go out to some strangers you've never met to their face and just like say, hey, I disagree with this thing that you wrote, don't worry. There are two kinds of objections that you could give. The first kind is for people who are not conflict averse, that are comfortable, in a constructive, respectful way, voicing why they disagree with something that someone said. The second kind is you could always sort of qualify your objection with the just playing devil's advocate here, right? Like, all right, but what if I agree with you, but what are you going to say to somebody who has this kind of objection? That sort of thing. For specific details, especially regarding the discussion board assignments. So for specific details concerning like what my grading criteria is for your engagement, like how you effectively answer, these prompts or questions, and then, how you give a good objection and things like this. You can find, or I suggest that you look at the discussion board assignment instructions and grading rubric, which you can find under assignment instructions and rubrics, the assignment instructions and rubrics tab on the Blackboard main menu. There I give you a lot more detail, give you a grading rubric. The same goes for the module worksheets, give you some examples of what is a good way to answer a question versus what is an unclear way to answer a question. So for anyone who's feeling, kind of a little bit worried, like you don't really know what the grading standards are, just go to that assignment instructions and grading rubrics tab on the Blackboard main menu, and you'll get a better sense of, sort of what my standards and expectations are when it comes to how I give grades for these assignments. And then if you have any questions beyond that, you're welcome to post them in the Q&A forum, or if you'd prefer, you can send me an email. All right, so this is probably everyone's very most favorite part. Academic integrity. All right, so I think we have a pretty clear idea of what constitutes plagiarism, right? It's pretty much anytime you're copying and pasting, that sort of thing. I'm going to be talking about chatbots, ChatGPT, AI writing tools in just a moment, but just broadly here, I want to say straight out the gate, whether you're using that kind of, the AI stuff or you're copying and pasting stuff from the internet, students are times where that happens, rather, not you. I just want to say that I don't personally view plagiarism ever as a moral failing. I don't think it's something that people do out of laziness. I don't feel that people are trying to do anything malicious, maybe a little bit deceptive, but really, and this is being conservative, I would say at least 70% of the time when I have some kind of academic integrity issue pop up with a student, that student has spent a substantial amount of time trying to do the work and trying to understand the material, and they maybe ran short on time, they hit a wall, they're exhausted, they have 20 other things going on in their life, right? And they're like, I just can't get this down on paper. And then they go to the internet. All right, not allowed in this class. The use of any outside sources, so anything that I do not post up on Blackboard, anything you find on Google, anything with one exception, ChatGPT, which I'll talk about in a second, for the most part, and you take that, anything outside of the course Blackboard that you're pulling to help you answer questions, anything on YouTube even, not allowed. This stuff, like I said, a lot of the worksheet questions, the discussion board questions, the reading reflection questions, I will address a lot of that stuff in my lecture video. So if you have those docs open and you're watching the lecture video and you're doing that, that's the most effective way to spend your time. I feel like when students start overthinking things, getting overwhelmed, doubting themselves oftentimes, turning to the internet, right? That as at least 70% of the time that I'm having to talk to people about academic integrity stuff, that's what's happening. They're just getting frustrated. They're trying really hard. But if you start yourself off, especially if you set specific times and specific days that you're going to do this work for this class. And so you have your just system set up where you're watching the lecture video, you got your like worksheet open and you're typing that stuff. That is going to by far be the best way. Just like a nice, relaxed, chill environment to answer these questions. You're doing the work, getting it done. You're going to have the easiest time there. I feel like that's probably the best way to sort of combat those that temptation to turn to Google or whatever to help you get your work done in the class. But if anything does crop up, I would just like to emphasize for anyone here that I have a lot of compassion for where that stuff comes from. Just bear in mind that I am here to try to dive into what's happening in your head to help you understand this material. Like we're going to be talking about some stuff that's like some of the stuff is going to be really straightforward, really easy. Some of the stuff's going to be a little bit denser, kind of confusing concepts or like maybe confusing argument stuff that's like you read it on a page and you're like, I have no idea what this person is talking about, that sort of thing. Pushing yourself to spell out your understanding, even like writing a string of words together that don't really feel like they make sense, but it's the most sense you can make out of this stuff. Doing that work, that is what makes you better at doing what I am trying to teach you how to do here. And my way of helping you in that process is trying to get inside your head and being like, okay, all right, so this is how they're understanding this thing. They seem like they're struggling with that. And then I want to respond to you. And you'll see I give a lot of really extensive feedback in my comments on the work that you submit in this class. And that's what I'm doing. That's like why I'm here. That's why I show up. That's my way, that's my method or my approach to teaching and helping students get better at doing these things. And when I am diving into the head of some random person on the internet or forbid like ChatGPT, right? That defeats the whole purpose why I'm here. So, respect why I'm here, how I approach teaching, how I do these things. I really do organize this material, write these questions, devise these assignments in ways that you can watch the lecture videos simultaneously doing the work, and really get better at this stuff without trying to demand too much of your time. So yeah, respect that work I put in, what I'm here to do. Please do not submit work that that is not coming from your own brain and your own mind. With one exception. So there's sort of two things that I need to talk about when it comes to using chatbots, so ChatGPT, Quill, whatever, that sort of thing, and other AI writing tools like Microsoft Word Editor, and probably the one you're most familiar with, Grammarly. Okay. So when it comes to using chatbots, so this is a large language model based chatbot, which essentially just means it's fed like bajillions of loads of information, all of this data to help train it to get really good at producing predictive text. You give it a string, it answers the rest, right? Like these chatbots where you can like go and plug in a question and it spits out an answer, right? I get that this stuff can be really helpful. In some cases, please like be very cautious in the way that you use this, but asking legal questions sometimes like it can be like really, really helpful. Just like, what are the different kinds of bankruptcy, right? Like I've asked ChatGPT that before for an academic related reason, for what it's worth. And it's given me some pretty good answers, or asking stuff about like case law, like maybe like some Supreme Court rulings. Like it gives some pretty good answers on that stuff. And I would imagine that a lot of people here probably have had experiences where they felt confused about something. They've asked ChatGPT, right? And it's cleared things up. It's giving you like a general. So I get that this stuff can be really effective and useful for people, which is why I have an option available to everyone in this class to use chatbots. but you have to tell me. You can't ever try to pass the chatbot work off as your own, okay? For the specific details on how to use the sort of permitted use of chatbots in this class, under that subheader, course resources on the Blackboard main menu, you'll see a tab labeled guidelines for using chatbots. So there I go into the details about how you need to use a chatbot, but essentially, and you don't have to do this for every single question on an assignment. If you want to use ChatGPT, say you're working on a worksheet, like the module 2 worksheet, and question 2, you're just really stumped and you're just like, oh, and you go and you're like, fine, you know what? I'm just going to ask ChatGPT. Okay. Before you do that though, I want you to try, even if it doesn't make any sense, just write out what you think it might be, the answer you think it might be, just before you look at ChatGPT. Just give it your best shot. Even if it is like the messiest, most nonsense, like run-on sentence, just try to answer the question. And then you can show me what ChatGPT said. And then I ask you to just kind of like reflect a couple sentences, 1 or 2 sentences, on whether or not you think like ChatGPT maybe missed something. So if you want to use ChatGPT, that option is there. Really, there's absolutely no reason for anyone to try to pass off ChatGPT's work as your own. Just remember, if you're getting frustrated, you're in that spot that I was kind of describing earlier where you're like, I'm trying to understand this stuff. It doesn't make any sense. I don't get it. Like maybe you're like, I didn't give myself enough time to do this, right? Like stop, take a breath. To the best of your ability, just write down whatever you think the answer might possibly could be. Then you can go to ChatGPT, you can look it up, you can show me that answer, and then you just have to reflect a little bit. Doesn't add that much time to the assignment. And it makes it so, you know, you have that option there, you don't have to worry, and you definitely don't have to try to pass off a chatbot's work as your own, because I do not want to be thinking about how the chatbot understood something, because the thing is chatbots don't understand anything, and that is a pointless waste of my time. Okay. So the second, so that's the course. So there is permitted use of chatbots as long as you follow the right guidelines. What is not permitted is passing off any work from a chatbot as your own. The second policy regarding these AI large language model writing tools concerns the use of editing tools, writing tools like Grammarly and Microsoft Editor. Okay, so I'm sure a lot of you have, or I would think that at least some of you regularly use one of these 2 things, right? I know Grammarly can actually really help people. It can be this really effective tool, all this stuff. It's really, really great. Unfortunately, in this class, you are not permitted to use any of these tools to help you with your work. Okay. Which means there's a bunch of different ways, because there's sometimes you have Grammarly that people have Grammarly like in their browser. So you have to disable Grammarly when you're writing. Say if you use Google Docs to do your homework for this class and you have like a Grammarly on your browser, you have to turn Grammarly off. Do not use Microsoft Editor to go in and rewrite sentences for you. Any of these tools, like even if you're like, I don't really get the tech stuff, any tools that change what you are writing, like change more than a single word, right? Like on Word, it'll give you the red squiggly line, like you see up here when it thinks that it's spelled something wrong. You can change your spelling. Anytime it's more than 1 word that your editing tool is suggesting that you change, ignore it. And some of you might be like, oh no, but won't I lose points for spelling mistakes, or if my grammar is bad? Grammarly Microsoft Editor is the only way I check my writing. Probably a lot of you have had experiences where you get dinged if you don't write things in this perfect kind of way. So I have never been a fan, and I have never marked off any points on students' work for grammar mistakes and spelling mistakes. I genuinely just don't care, because I'm thinking about what you're trying to think about. It's like, I'm just not the kind of person that can like, or rather, I don't get confused by, I don't expect people to like have perfect grammar when I'm talking to them and trying to understand what they're saying. I'm just thinking about what they're what they're understanding, like what their view is. So it never really occurred to me in the first place to mark people off for those sorts of things. But like in this class, you can write your like you are throughout the whole class, and you will never get marked off a point. I don't care. You can make like, as long as I can get a general understanding, even if you feel like maybe if English is not your first language and you're like, oh, like my English is really not that great, like it's fine. Just write it to the best of your abilities. And if I feel like I can't understand something, then I'll ask you about it and I'll give you a chance to give me a response. So don't worry about it. Don't feel insecure. Don't be concerned that you're going to get marked off if you can't use something like Grammarly or Microsoft Editor. Now, and just to let you know, this is a really good reason why you want to keep the worksheet, that worksheet document open while you're watching these lecture videos, because I am about to answer one question that is just straight up on the worksheet right there. The reason why I do not permit the use of AI writing tools like Grammarly and Microsoft Editor is because that technology is really at the root of it, like what it is, the same. It functions in the same way, produces text that follows similar patterns as the text produced by things like a chatbot like ChatGPT. So if I put someone's work into an AI writing detector, that AI writing detector is not going to distinguish between whether or not a student worked really hard and just used Grammarly to sort of clean things up for them, or whether they just straight up asked ChatGPT. Like that AI writing detector, because that's both essentially work that is produced by an AI. The AI writing detector can't distinguish the difference between those two. And since unfortunately I do have to use AI writing detectors, obviously I never just use one. I have about six different ones that I use. Since I need to rely on those sometimes, I can't, and I essentially don't want to produce false positive results for work that appears to have violated, the course policy on academic integrity. So for your own safety, make sure all that stuff is shut off. If you are worried, you're like, I don't know, like this thing, does that count as using an AI or whatever? Email me and ask me about it. Even on the assignment, if you're feeling like, oh, I don't know, I just need to do this assignment, you can write a note at the end and be like, okay, this is what I use. Like, I'm a little worried. Let me know if it's okay. Right. Like I turned off Grammarly, but I feel like sometimes it turns back on and I don't think I changed anything here, but let me know if this is okay. You can do that. That's totally fine. You can leave me a little note, or ask me ahead of time. Like, you can show me an example of something maybe that got changed and what you were writing, your word processor like suggested some change. You could be like, is this an AI? Am I using an AI? And I can answer your questions for you. All right. So for those of you who, I hope this doesn't happen with anyone here, but here I have like the consequences for violating these course policies on academic integrity. So just bear in mind, in the event that you get contacted about like your work, it's like, okay, it's, you always, something I don't have here, but if I ever have to contact a student directly, I always give them the this information. You always have the option to contest like a 0 on assignment, and a 0 that was given for violating the course policy on academic integrity. Now, let's say that doesn't happen. There's some mistakes that get made. First offense, just a 0 on the assignment. Second offense, like reporting, F in the class, things like this. Again, if you're tempted to use the chatbots, just tell me that you're doing that. I give you the option. I definitely give you the option of doing it. There's no need to try to pass off ChatGPT, say, that work as your own. You have the option of utilizing that technology if it's something you find helpful. Okay, so everything else is on the syllabus is just the course schedule. So I have the schedule broken down by dates and module periods. So we just have one module period for today. That's just today, July 15th. Under that module period tab on Blackboard, and again, I'll post the overview video on how to navigate the course Blackboard. I'll show you where to find that. Yeah, under that module period, I have, all the assigned readings, the lecture video, which assignments are due, when they are due. I also, under course resources on the Blackboard menu, you'll see assignment deadline calendar. So there I got one of those calendars that you can find. I don't know, it was like a template from Word or whatever. So I filled that out where, I have a downloadable version and then a version you can just look at Blackboard on. For those of you who are like visual learners like me, those sorts of things really help. Like nice, big, clean, clear calendars marked with all the days and specific assignments that are due those days. So, if you're like me, printing something like that out, posting it up, like that can help me really stay on top of stuff, because there's so much work that we need to do. This is a whole semester of business ethics crammed into just 4 weeks. So there's gonna be a lot. I have tried to make it as, concise and straightforward as I possibly can. And really, I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to just identify specific days and times that you are going to do work for this class. Now, if you're one of those people that has a job that doesn't give you your schedule, you only know your schedule for that week, at the very least, what I strongly suggest you do, I might, in fact, ask some of you, depending on your answers to a particular question on the Module 1 worksheet, identify just a day every week where you have a day and time where you just take 15, 20 minutes to lay out your schedule for that week. Because it's just really easy for work to snowball and to miss things. And if you have at least one set time every week, because even if your schedule changes around a bunch, you could always, have that. If you're like, all right, so just 8 a.m. or even 7 a.m. on the Monday, 6:30, 6 o'clock a.m., where you just wake up and you're like, this is my time that I know I'm going to look at my stuff that's due. I'm going to look at all the things that I need to do every week. Having that in the back of your mind will help you stay oriented, help you stay on top of things, and really keep you from just that 15, 20 minutes of work will keep you from, falling behind in the class, because I'm sure that everyone has many other things going on in their life, and it's really easy to fall behind on stuff. So the last thing I just want to mention real quick, July 18th, a few days from now, last day to drop the class and get a 50% tuition refund. The 20th is the last day to drop and get any of your money back for the class. And then also on the 20th, for those of you who are most certainly not dropping or any of that nonsense, I have the deadline for the verification of enrollment rosters that are due, which means by July 20th, I need to receive an assignment, some written work from you in order to verify your enrollment in the course. If I do not receive a single assignment from you, then I won't be able to verify your enrollment, and I will not, and consequently the registrar's office will automatically drop you from the course. So make sure you get your work in on time. If something comes up, email me, ask me for extensions, and we will figure things out from there. All right, everyone. Well, congratulations on finishing your first lecture video. And if you have any questions, you are welcome to post it on the Q&A forum, obviously, depending on the nature of the question, or as always, email me. All right. Thanks and see you all next time.